In 2024, a tennis player named Carousel had, by his own account, the best season of his career. 56 wins, 21 losses, a career-high ranking of 258 in the world. He finished that season $12,000 in debt. The next year his results got worse. 14 wins, a lower ranking, far fewer matches played overall. He finished it with a small profit. Winning more tennis made him poorer, losing more made him solvent. So what is actually going on here? The easy answer is that tennis just doesn't pay enough. That's true, but it's not the real reason. The real reason is on the other side of the ledger, the side that never makes a headline, what it actually costs to compete on tour, and how fast that cost rises the moment a player tries to win. Chapter 1: Historical Root. To understand why, you have to go back to where professional tennis's money actually starts. In April 1968 in Bournemouth, England, tennis held its first ever open tournament, the event where professionals and amateurs were allowed to compete for the same prize money for the first time. The total purse was £400. 3 months later, the Wimbledon men's champion earned £2,000, about $2,621. The women's champion earned £750, about $980. Those numbers look absurd today. But the structure created in 1968 is still in its bones, the structure tennis runs on now. Tennis never became one league with one owner and one shared pot of money, the way the NBA or the NFL did. It became 4 Grand Slams, the ATP Tour, the WTA Tour, and the International Tennis Federation, all negotiating their own broadcast deals, all setting their own prize money, all completely independent of each other. That single fact is the real root of the money problem. There was never a mechanism built in from the start to share tennis's growing wealth down through the ranking system. So as the sport got richer at the top over the following 5 decades, it had no structural reason to get richer at the bottom. Chapter 2: Evolution. Fast forward to now, and the shape of that gap is precise.
Most prize money goes to the top players. As you go down the ranks, it drops off steeply.
That's not opinion. That's how the ranking system is designed to pay out. The closer you are to the final of a Grand Slam, the more of the sport's television and sponsorship money you personally receive. The further down the bracket, the less there is left to go around. According to that same Financial Times reporting, players ranked in the top 500 had median prize money earnings of around $137,000 for men and $92,000 for women that year. On paper, that's a real income. By contrast, at the very top of the sport, the gap is enormous but at least survivable. A first-round loser at Wimbledon in 2025 still walked away with about $89,600, while the champion earned just over $4 million. Even the players losing in round 1 of a Grand Slam are, for that tournament at least, financially fine. It's several levels below that where professional tennis stops being financially viable for most of the people playing it, because none of the top 500 median number accounts for what it costs to earn it. A full-time touring professional, one who travels with a coach, a physio, and sometimes a hitting partner, typically spends somewhere between $400,000 and $700,000 a year to compete. Flights, hotels, stringing, coaching fees, entry costs. Players ranked in the top 100 to 200 earn somewhere between $300,000 and $1 million a year, which means a huge number of them are simply breaking even, best case. Below rank 200, the math usually goes negative. Take Mitchell Kruger, who was ranked 195 in the world in 2020. He earned £32,000 in prize money that year, before subtracting a single expense. Or Kiranpal Pannu, who has said publicly he finished 2022 more than $27,000 in the red, despite competing as a full-time professional. And this is where Carousel's numbers make sense.
I finished the year with 56 wins and 21 losses, and yet I still finished the year about $12,000 in the red.
Winning more matches at his level meant entering more tournaments, which meant more flights, more hotel nights, more weeks paying a coach on the road. Every one of those costs is guaranteed the moment you book it. The prize money is not. You only get paid for how far you advance, and at rank 258, advancing far enough to cover a full season of travel isn't the default outcome, it's the exception.
Because I played less, I also spent less, which means I actually turned a profit this year. What?
That's not a player being bad with money. That's the honest incentive structure of professional tennis below the very top. Winning is a bet you place with guaranteed costs against uncertain prize money, and the odds of that bet get worse the further you are from the top 100. Tennis has tried to patch this. In 2023, the ATP launched a program called Baseline, which guarantees a minimum income to the top 250 ranked singles players if their prize money falls short, provided they play at least 15 events a season. For 2025, that guaranteed floor was raised to $100,000, up from $75,000 the year before. It's real money and it matters. But notice the boundary, it protects the top 250. Below that line, on the ITF's developmental circuit, the level almost every professional actually starts on, an ITF study found that only 1.8% of male players and 3.1% of female players were turning a profit at all. According to ESPN's reporting on that circuit, pay in 2022 ranged from as little as $50 for a first-round qualifying loss at the entry-level tier, up to just over $15,000 for winning the tour's highest-level event. Brenda Fruhvirtova, who won a tour-high 8 titles on that circuit that year, made a total of $43,071 for the entire season before a single expense. That's the real shape of the problem. It isn't that prize money is unfair at the very top. It's that the sport was built with no floor underneath almost everyone trying to climb into it. Chapter 3. Modern Lens. And in 2026, that same imbalance has climbed all the way to the very top of the sport too, just measured differently. At this year's French Open, a group of the tour's biggest names, including world number 8 Taylor Fritz, limited their media commitments to protest how Grand Slam prize money is split. Their argument: players currently receive around 15% of a major's total revenue, and they're asking for 22%. Fritz put it simply to reporters in Paris, it isn't about wanting more money, it's about wanting what's fair. The French Open raised its 2026 Champions Prize to €2.8 million, up from $2.55 million the year before. That increase happened anyway, and the argument over revenue share is still unresolved. Meanwhile, the Professional Tennis Players Association, the union Novak Djokovic co-founded in 2020, filed lawsuits in March 2025 against the ATP, WTA, ITF, and the sport's anti-doping body, arguing that the entire system suppresses competition and prize money by design. Djokovic himself left the organization by January 2026, disagreeing with parts of the case, even as its central argument is essentially the same one playing out at rank 258. Tennis's revenue was never built to flow downward. Nobody knows how this resolves. Maybe the slams agree to a bigger revenue share, and some of that eventually reaches the ranking system below the top 100. Maybe the PTPA's lawsuit forces a structural change in court. Or maybe tennis just keeps running the way it has since a small tournament in Bournemouth in 1968. 4 majors, 2 tours, 1 federation, no shared pot, and a pyramid where the view from rank 10 and the view from rank 258 are effectively 2 different sports. What's clear right now is that the loudest fight in tennis isn't happening on a court, it's happening over a spreadsheet. And the players who are actually losing money to compete, the ones ranked outside the top 100, aren't in the room where that argument is taking place. If you found this useful, subscribe. This is Smart Tennis. Let me know what you think in the comments.